welcome to my lecture recital. It's a pleasure. I will introduce by starting. Throughout history, composers in the Western world, including figures like Bach, Mozart, Beethoven, Liszt, and Brahms, have been profoundly influenced by the Christian faith in their compositional processes. Similarly, musicians in Eastern cultures, for example in China, have drawn upon the philosophies and cultural traditions of their societies in their work. This project will examine the philosophical perspectives of Yin and Yang and how those perspectives can support both compositional and improvisational practices. The objective is to enhance my expressiveness as an artist and composer, utilizing this framework as a lens for exploring different possibilities within the realm of music creation. I have chosen to apply the philosophy of Yin and Yang in two different ways. The first was in composing the pieces I selected for the lecture recital today. The second is through improvisation in and between the pieces as transitional segments in the performance, occurring after the conclusion of one piece and before the subsequent one. I will refer to these as improvised intermezzos during the presentation of the lecture recital. I will now present some philosophy on Yin and Yang, and then I will present some of my musical findings and the methods I've used and plan on using during the presentation of this lecture recital. Yin and Yang, introduction to Yin and Yang. Yin and Yang describes the interconnected and interdependent nature of seemingly opposite forces in the universe. It's not about absolute duality or a rigid separation of good and evil, but rather about a dynamic balance where each aspect contains a seed of the other and cannot exist in isolation. Chinese philosophies suggest that Yin and Yang reflect the dynamic interplay of opposites and that they cannot survive without each other. And they complement each other, depend on each other, exist in each other, give birth to each other, and succeed each other at different points in time. We can imagine a coin. One side is heads, the other is tails. They are distinct, yet they are two sides of the same coin. You can't have one without the possibility of the other. Yin and Yang operate on a similar principle, but with a fluid and constant shifting relationship. Darkness and light are two elements that rely on each other for existence. Light cannot exist without darkness or dark matter to illuminate its qualities. The shadows of a hill or tree are cast because of the absence of light in that specific area. Sound cannot exist in a vacuum. It contrasts with silence, which serves as the foundation or context for sound to exist, and vice versa. Up requires down. Second, core principles of Yin and Yang. Intermixture. Within each aspect of Yin, there is a seed or element of Yang, and vice versa. This is often visually represented by the small dot of the opposite color within each swell of the Yin-Yang symbol. This signifies that nothing is purely one or the other. Change and potential for the opposite are always present. mutual consuming and supporting. Yin and Yang are in a constant state of flux, either increasing or decreasing in relation to each other. When one is dominant, the other is necessarily weaker. However, they also support each other. For example, activity, Yang, requires rest, Yin, to be sustainable. Transformation. Yin can transform into Yang, and Yang can transform into Yin. The Chinese believe that not only the positives and the negatives can coexist, but they can give rise to each other and transform into each other given situation, context, and time. Think of the cycle of day and night. Day, Yang, reaches its peak and then begins to wane, giving way to night, Yin, which in turn reaches its deepest point before transforming back into day. Without change, there is no progression. It is impossible to remain static. One is either moving forward or backward. Everything in the universe is subject to change and paradox. 3. Broader philosophical implications. There is always something after the end. Before the beginning, there was the end. A ring naturally represents infinity, but before the ring existed, infinity existed. And before the ring was created, there was a creator. 4. The goal, wholeness and harmony. Wholeness and harmony. The ultimate goal is often seen as achieving a state of balance and harmony between yin and yang. When these forces are in equilibrium, things are considered to be in a natural and healthy state. Imbalance can lead to disharmony or problems. Artistic research. I will now present some of my artistic research, focusing on 4 piano works. This presentation includes 1 original composition, Nocturne Mélancolique, Opus 12, and 3 transcriptions, Chopin's Prelude, Opus 28, number 15, in D flat major, also called Raindrop Prelude, Liszt Résignation in E major, and Noir Gris in G minor. Throughout this selection, I explore philosophical aspects of yin and yang, drawing inspiration from them in both the chosen transcriptions and my original composition. The pieces will be presented in the order listed and performed in the lecture recital today. So, Nocturne Mélancolique, Opus 12, Chopin's Prelude, Liszt Résignation, and his Noir Gris. The method I've employed in my artistic research involves several layers. First, I gathered empirical data. Second, I selected and practiced 3 existing pieces, who became the transcriptions. Third, I created transcription of these pieces, highlighting aspects of the yin and yang philosophy. Fourth and finally, I experimented with improvising over these transcriptions to further explore philosophical aspects of yin and yang, which I will soon present. A primary motive of this artistic research has been the improvisation of intermezzos between the pieces. I have adopted a rather free approach, not necessarily adhering to the style of the preceding piece, but often creating a contrast. Although the results of my analysis are personal and represent my conviction regarding the music's underlying philosophy, I have endeavored to adhere to a systematic pattern in my examination of my original composition and three transcriptions of Chopin and Liszt's work, aligning with the main philosoph- philosophical aspects of Yin and Yang. So I will now present examples from my original compositions, the three transcriptions, and some approaches to my improvisational techniques, demonstrating how they reflect a philosophical aspect of Yin and Yang. Yeah. So first, I will talk about dynamics and articulation. We have Yin, which is the female side, or not necessarily with gender or sex, but they are considered in Chinese philosophy as Yin is female and Yang is male, and they have different aspects or qualities. So Yin is softness, stillness, and in my Nocturne Melancholique, I have the main theme, which is which is quite soft in itself. Then it reflects also the side theme also have a softer side, more introvert. Um, so we can see this more softness, stillness, while Yang can be more dominate, and when the main theme comes back again after the side theme, it is more dominate, and it turns a little bit different. We have octaves in the right hand, so and a mezzo forte instead of piano. So it has turned from a very still and soft to more majestic, and I will go further on those subjects here in the presentation. So, Yang is, as I said, it's more loud, more movement, and in Liszt Resignation, which I made a transcription of, it starts very so to say, Yin, the soft. It's a little mixture of them both. It's a mezzo forte, so it's not too soft, it's not strong, but it's something in between. It's not like this. So it has a quite orchestral sound, maybe brass, like this. So it's a mixture. But then, when we come back after this side theme, which I composed a special side theme, then we come back and then it's majestoso, same theme. So we can see quite easily the difference between these yin and yang, and um, and to remember uh, they are not separate, but they are coexisting with each other. They work with each other, and um, I will go further. So I talked a little bit about dynamics and articulation, and then we have the second one is melody and harmony. Yin is more reflective, uh, passive, as you see. It might be conveyed through descending melodic lines. We can see this in in the piece I play now, Nocturne, where it's sorry. So we have all the time we have a major second or minor second, major second, major, minor. It's small intervals. And then we have a leap, and this is typical for the yang. The leap here, and it suggests to something maybe dramatic, something new that is presented. So, and all these are, of course, my own interpretations. You can interpret these aspects of the Chinese philosophy in hundreds, in innumerable ways. So these are my thoughts on these music and idea. So we are in the second. There are the 6 principles I want to present, and we are now in the second one. It's about melody and harmony, and I'm in the yang, the more active, assertive side, and this suggests also the yang resolved harmonies. And I will give an example from Liszt Noir Gris, a piece which he wrote late in his life, towards the end of his life, and it's written in G minor, but it's mostly like a tonal music. It doesn't have really sense of a home, or a tonic like bass where you settle down. Oh, now we're finished with the piece. I will show some examples from that, and I have adhered to the same kind of language as Liszt used, so I have not done too much of my own, but I've still made a transcriptions, which is kind of somewhat unique to me. So you will now hear some unresolved harmonies in the Noir Gris. So this is typical then. whole piece actually, and never really settle down and feel like you're coming home. And the end of my transcriptions is, as I said, it's throughout the whole piece. It's very similar to the language which Liszt used. And the two last chords are like this. So we're a little bit unsettled. Okay. So we will go to the third one. The third is about rhythm and tempo. Yin is characterized by, as mentioned, stillness, but also a flow. And I will show an example from Chopin's Prelude, which I have also adhered quite closely to the original, but I have made some introductions to the piece, which I will show now, and of course change some things. So, the introduction to the piece of Chopin's Prelude, which I have made, and which really shows about this yin, the flow, stillness, is like this. It starts with just a flowing A flat tone, A flat, 18th notes. So we have this A flat going on just like that, the yin, we could say. And in between we have something like, we could say, Liszt, this unresolved harmonies, like the Yang force, or so to say. We have this. But we have the stable stillness and flow of yin, if we want to separate them. And then we have this unresolved harmony, we could say, yang. So they are not separate. It's not about dualism. Okay. We will be, I will be looking at the fourth concept. It's about texture and density. So Yang is characterized by fullness, intensity. As I showed before in Liszt Resignation, in my own version, the stillness and calmness from the beginning turns suddenly to this fullness or yang intensity. And then yin can be more seen as emptiness, sparse textures, solar lines, thin harmonies, use of silence and rest, and for example, a single melodic line with minimal accompaniment. For example, in the Liszt Noir Gris, we can see this example. that's an example of that kind of. You can see in the yin. So, fifth, form and structure. Yin is characterized by contemplation, gradual change. And it might be reflected in cyclical forms, and a gradual development of themes. While Yang has dramatic shifts in tempo and dynamics and clear thematic development and variation and a sense of progression. So I think that is visible in the Chopin preludes in many different ways, and you will hear also during the recital and can hear those kind of things. So I will move on to the next one, the sixth one. It's about timbre and register, and it's within the piano's capabilities in this context today. Yin is lower, softer. It's so it can be, yeah, of course it's it can evoke a sense of depth, darkness, and yin, the feminine, or so to say, is characterized by Chinese philosophy by the moon, and yang is by the sun, radiant beams, a lot of energy, and so yang is higher and so it has a lot of energy, and of course in a low, the vibration, of course, they are longer, as we know, and the deeper you get and higher you get, it's faster. So now I'm going to have my recital. So thank you for listening to these examples.